you ever plan on giving Fry the memories of Lars Fillmore?
Through some device or
Has to be.
we haven't discussed that yet, and even my brain may explode if I start to try to work out the time paradox of that episode. But I was talking to one of the fans earlier today about that episode has all these time travel paradoxes, some of which kind of make sense and some don't, and I find that if you watch it the first time it's a little confusing, and you watch it the second time you're like, wow, this actually kind of makes sense. Yeah. But then you watch it the third time you're like, no, it doesn't make sense after all. So watch it an even number of times and then it kind of makes sense. So.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much. Hey, David. Steve Fritz, Newsarama. How you doing?
How are you? We've spoken on the phone quite a few times.
Yes.
Good to see you.
It's a pleasure finally to see you face to face. Let's put it that way.
This is Steve Fritz from Newsarama.
And thank you. One thing that we did discuss when you did Beyond Blue Green Yonder was setting things up so just in case you had a way to open it up. Did you have the opening plan for this episode in your mind already?
I had, this is another interesting question. I had an entirely different episode in mind for us to come back to, and even I actually did a couple of interviews where I talked about the plot of that episode, which we didn't do.
Right.
So I'll tell you a little bit about what I originally had in mind, but which we're not doing. My original idea was we would spend the first episode in the other universe, and it would be a story about them being held prisoner in this other universe in an alien zoo, and Fry and Leela were part of a mating project by these alien zookeepers, and they were going to have to produce this offspring that would have certain powers that these aliens required, and then they would eventually make their escape and get back to our universe. That was my intent for quite a while. However, Matt Groening wisely steered it in a new direction, and this goes back to the question of Matt Groening's involvement in this very, very heavy involvement. And he John DiMaggio in the house somewhere. You can always count on John DiMaggio to out-volume you at any
Just
event.
remember, I take notes, John.
Matt Groening said, and I think this was very wise, that if we're coming back to life, we should come back to life in the form of the show, of the original show. We should see the building, we should see them back at work, and the whole crew back together. And so, therefore, we came up with this opening that you just saw, which is sort of a quick way to reestablish that we're back home and Futurama is alive again. And so, rather than start it off in a weird, unfamiliar territory, we wanted to quickly get back to home base for the show.
So, the thing I'm thinking about now is, okay, moving to Comedy Central, obviously, there's not quite the same amount of censorship as Fox has. I mean, you have South Park, you had several other animated shows that were quite risque.
Right.
Does that feel like you now have opportunities to write about things you never could for Fox?
It's interesting, the second episode, which is the Eden planet with Zap Brannigan and Leela stranded together, it's a somewhat filthy episode, if I admit it.
Smutty and fun.
And it involves a few things that are beeped out along the way. It's a plot. There's a plot reason. It makes sense that they're beeped out, but a few filthy things are beeped out along the way. And a hilarious thing about being on Comedy Central now is that we have to send our scripts to the Comedy Central censor, who is, as you say, much less persnickety than the Fox censor. So the note we actually got back from the Comedy Central censor was, well, this part where you're bleeping it out, what were you planning to say? Because maybe you could say it on Comedy Central. And if you can't, we're willing to give you some suggestions of things you can say.
Hey, they work with Parker and Stone.
That's right. So basically, it's moved more into a matter of our own taste, and we can push the envelope, and we do in that episode. But overall, I don't want it to feel like it's a new show. So it's like we try to keep things in the ballpark, taste-wise, of the original show. Which I would say, what that is well. It's somewhere. It's a reasonably friendly show down to your younger teenagers, except for the occasional episode with Zap Brannigan, and we're going to have those occasionally. So.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you later, Dave.
Talk to you later. Good to see you. And actually, on the, speaking of filthy episodes, I guess that fourth one with Bender and Amy is also filthy. So we actually were batting 500 on the filth batting average for the first few. So, any more questions I can answer? I see one here.
I've been watching Futurama for many years, even though I'm somewhat of a younger viewer, and I've seen throughout the show that there have been many references to like Jewish culture and society. Are you going to continue that in the new episodes of the series?
But we try to spread it around a little bit. There's no, I would not say we're aiming particularly in any direction, but because of the character of Dr. Zoidberg, although who is not technically Jewish but seems to have certain Jewish traits, me being of Jewish ancestry, don't get offended by anything I may or may not say, but part of the joke of him obviously is he seems kind of Jewish, but he's an unkosher lobster. So part of his intrinsic internal conflict of Dr. Zoidberg that he has to live with. And we once had a joke of Bender celebrating Robonica. Those are the ones that come to mind. But at the same time, we have the characters of Santa Claus Robot, and we have Kwanzaabat, who's played by Coolio, who has appeared a couple of times. So we try to be an equal opportunity. We try to be equal opportunity in terms of making fun of religion stuff. No particular proselytizing in any direction that I can think of coming up. But more references, maybe.
Okay, and also, is there any possibility to be any more seasons after the 26 episodes that are going to be on Comedy Central?
There's the $1,000 question. I have no idea, and every 3 years when we get canceled regularly every 3 years, as you know. So about every 3 years, if you ask me, is there any chance we're coming back? I'll say no. This time they shut the door on us hard, and then a year later I get the call that we're coming back. So I don't even want to speculate anymore. We're in a bizarre third life at this point. So anything is possible. There is no plan at the moment. It's 26, and we all go off and do our jobs. But that's what we did after the first run of the show. That's what we did after the DVDs, and people keep hitting the show with a big hammer, and it keeps springing up somehow. So who knows? Anything's possible. And maybe that's when we'll do the movie after that. So anything can happen.
And have there been a lot of complications with the actors from the crew coming back? How many of them have not been able to come back, or have they all been able to?
They're all back. No, the entire crew is back. So we have 4 of them here. We have John DiMaggio, Billy West, Maurice LaMarche, and Phil Lamar actually at the convention here. But Katie Seagal, Tress MacNeille, and Lauren Tom are the who have I omitted? And David Herman. Those are the 4 other regulars on the show, all back. All the writers, as I said, are veterans. We have our animation studio Rough Draft back, and our composer Chris Ting back. So one of the great things about the show is it is hard work, but people actually all across the board in all those areas, I think, look back on it as something they are proud of and happy to be part of. And again, some episodes I love, some episodes could have been better maybe, but on the whole, I'm very proud of it, and I think everyone is proud of their work in the show and enjoys working with other people. So we've been very lucky to just get our whole entire crew back for these.